The galaxy had always been ruled by the Valon Empire. For centuries, no one dared to challenge their power. The Valons were tall, strong, and proud of their advanced technology. Their ships roamed the stars, keeping order, or so they claimed. But on a quiet day, something strange happened. At the edge of the Empire's vast territory, a fleet of unknown ships appeared. These ships were sleek and sharp, with designs that no one in the Empire had ever seen before. They didn't look like anything from the known worlds. On board the largest ship of this mysterious fleet, Captain Ryan Mitchell stood silently in the command center. His eyes scanned the stars outside the window. He was a calm man, but even he felt the weight of the moment. Beside him, Lieutenant Sarah Blake studied her console carefully. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she analyzed the data. "They're mobilizing," she said softly, breaking the silence. Her voice carried a hint of worry. Ryan nodded slowly. He knew what was at stake. This was humanity's first real encounter with an alien empire. It would shake the future for everyone back on Earth. "Stay sharp," he told his crew. "We don't know what they'll do next." The human fleet wasn't here to fight, but they weren't about to let themselves be pushed around either. Far away, deep inside the heart of the Valon capital, Emperor Drexel sat on his throne. News of the unknown fleet had reached him quickly. His advisors gathered around, whispering nervously. One of them, Cal Torin, stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he began, "we must proceed with caution. We don't know who these strangers are or what they want." Drexel listened but said nothing. His face remained unreadable. The generals, however, were less patient. General Vorthin, the leader of the Imperial Navy, slammed his fist on the table. "Caution. These intruders have entered our space without permission. They must be destroyed." His voice echoed through the chamber, filled with anger and pride. Other officers nodded in agreement, eager to show the Empire's strength. Cal Torin frowned. He didn't trust the situation. Something about the newcomers made him uneasy. Their ships looked powerful, far more advanced than any reports had suggested. And their sudden appearance, it was too perfect, too calculated. Were they explorers, invaders, or something else entirely? Back on the human flagship, preparations continued. Admiral Logan Hayes, the overall commander of the fleet, walked onto the bridge. He was a seasoned officer, with years of experience leading missions. "Status report," he asked, his tone firm but calm. Ryan turned to face him. "Their forces are moving into position," Ryan replied. "But they haven't attacked yet." Logan crossed his arms. "Good. Let's keep it that way. We came here to talk, not to fight." Still, he couldn't ignore the tension in the air. Every member of the crew felt it. Humanity had spent decades dreaming of meeting alien life. Now that the moment had arrived, it wasn't quite what anyone expected. As the hours passed, both sides watched each other closely. The humans sent out probes to gather information, while the Valons deployed scouts to monitor the intruders. Neither side made the first move, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. For now, there was peace, but how long would it last? The decision was made. The humans would send one ship forward to make contact. On board this vessel was Ambassador Emily Dawson, a woman known for her calm and thoughtful approach. She had been chosen because everyone agreed she could handle the pressure of such an important mission. As the ship moved closer to the designated meeting point, a neutral space station, Emily took a deep breath. She knew that what happened next could change everything. When she stepped onto the platform, she saw him immediately. Cal Torin, the Valon advisor, stood waiting. He was tall, much taller than any human, with skin that shimmered faintly in the artificial light. His eyes studied her carefully, as if trying to understand what kind of creature she was. Emily extended her hand slowly, a gesture meant to show goodwill. For a moment, Torin hesitated. Then, cautiously, he reached out and touched her hand. It was a small act, but it carried great meaning. "Welcome," Torin said, his voice deep and steady. "I am Cal Torin, advisor to Emperor Drexel." Emily nodded politely. "Thank you for meeting with us. I am Ambassador Emily Dawson, representing the United Nations of Earth." Her words were clear and calm, though inside she felt nervous. This was the first time humans had spoken directly to an alien species. Negotiations began almost immediately. Emily explained why humanity had come to this part of the galaxy. "We are explorers," she said. "Our goal is to learn about other civilizations and build friendships." Torin listened closely, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he leaned forward slightly. "And what do you hope to gain from us?" he asked. Emily paused before answering. "Knowledge, trade, peace." Her tone was firm, leaving no room for misunderstanding. Torin seemed to consider her words. "Your intentions sound reasonable," he admitted, "but my people may not see it that way." Back on the human flagship, Captain Ryan Mitchell watched the meeting unfold via a live feed. Beside him, Lieutenant Sarah Blake monitored communications between the two sides. "Do you think they'll believe us?" Sarah asked quietly. Ryan shrugged. "It's hard to say. They seem cautious." Meanwhile, aboard the Valon warship overseeing the meeting, General Vorthen paced impatiently. He didn't trust these strangers. To him, their talk of peace sounded like lies. "They're weak," he muttered to himself. "Weak and foolish if they think we'll bow to them." His officers exchanged uneasy glances but said nothing. No one dared to challenge him. As the hours passed, Emily and Torin continued their discussions. They talked about history, culture, and technology. Emily shared stories of Earth, the oceans, the mountains, the cities. Torin listened with growing curiosity. Despite their differences, he found himself intrigued by humanity. There was something about their resilience, their determination to explore the unknown, that fascinated him. But not everyone shared his interest. Back on the Valon homeworld, whispers of dissent spread among the military leaders. Some believed the humans were hiding their true motives. Others thought they should be destroyed before they became a threat. Even Emperor Drexel struggled to maintain control over his advisors, who argued fiercely about how to handle the situation. By the end of the day, Emily and Torin had reached a temporary agreement. Both sides promised to avoid violence while further talks took place. As Emily returned to her ship, she felt a mix of relief and uncertainty. Progress had been made, but she knew there was still a long road ahead. On the flagship, Ryan greeted her warmly. "How did it go?" he asked. Emily smiled faintly. "Better than I expected. But we're not out of danger yet." Ryan nodded. He understood. Trust was fragile, especially when two very different worlds met for the first time. Far away, General Vorthen clenched his fists in frustration. He didn't care about agreements or promises. In his mind, only one thing mattered: power. And he wasn't about to let some newcomers threaten the Empire's dominance. Back on Earth, the news of first contact spread quickly. People gathered around televisions and radios, eager to hear updates about the mysterious alien empire. President Daniel Carter stood before the United Nations, addressing the world with a calm but serious tone. "This is a historic moment," he began. "For the first time, humanity has met another intelligent species. Our goal is peace, but we must also be prepared for any outcome." Not everyone agreed with him. In the Senate chamber, voices rose in heated debate. Senator Laura Bennett slammed her fist on the table. "Peace. These aliens could crush us if they wanted to. We need to show them we're not afraid to fight back." Her words echoed through the room, earning nods from some and frowns from others. Senator Paul Grant, an older man with gray hair, shook his head. "We can't jump to conclusions," he said firmly. "Let's give diplomacy a chance before we start talking about war." While politicians argued, Admiral Logan Hayes worked tirelessly to prepare the fleet. He knew that trust was fragile, and even a small mistake could lead to disaster. On board the flagship, Captain Ryan Mitchell drilled his crew on emergency procedures. "Stay sharp," he reminded them. "We don't want surprises." The tension among the crew was palpable, but they followed orders without hesitation. Meanwhile, deep within the Valon Empire, whispers of rebellion grew louder. General Vorthen refused to sit idly by while Cal Torin negotiated with the humans. "They're testing us," he growled during a private meeting with his officers. "If we don't strike now, they'll see us as weak." His words stirred anger and fear among his followers. Some agreed with him, while others hesitated, unsure if attacking would make things worse. Cal Torin heard rumors of Vorthen's plans and acted quickly. He requested a private audience with Emperor Drexel. When he arrived at the palace, he found the Emperor seated on his throne, looking more tired than usual. "Your Majesty," Torin began, bowing respectfully, "I have reason to believe General Vorthen is planning unauthorized actions against the humans." Drexel frowned. "Are you certain?" he asked. Torin nodded. "His behavior has been erratic, and his officers are speaking openly of war. If we don't intervene, this could spiral out of control." Drexel sighed heavily. He trusted Torin, but reining in Vorthen wouldn't be easy. The general had powerful allies who shared his aggressive views. As tensions mounted, both sides engaged in covert operations. Commander Alex Rivera, a skilled officer in the human fleet, led a team of scouts on a dangerous mission. Their task was to gather intelligence on Valon defenses. Under the cover of darkness, they slipped into enemy territory, avoiding detection as they scanned key locations. What they discovered was alarming. Hidden weapon caches scattered near the border, ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. When Alex returned to the flagship, he reported his findings to Ryan and Logan. "They're preparing for war," Alex said grimly. "These weapons aren't just for defense. They are meant to overwhelm." Logan clenched his jaw. "We need to act fast," he said. "If we wait too long, they might take the first shot." On the diplomatic front, Emily Dawson continued her efforts to build trust with Cal Torin. During one meeting, she noticed a change in his demeanor. He seemed more guarded, less willing to share information. "Is everything all right?" she asked gently. Torin hesitated before answering. "There are complications," he admitted. "Some in my government view your presence as a threat. I'm doing what I can to prevent conflict, but it's becoming harder." Emily nodded, understanding the weight of his position. "Thank you for being honest," she said. "We're here to help, not to harm, but we'll defend ourselves if we have to." Her words were firm, leaving no room for doubt. As days turned into weeks, the galaxy held its breath. Both sides braced for what might come next. Humanity had shown its strength and determination, but the Valon Empire was vast and powerful. The question remained, would diplomacy prevail, or would war tear apart the fragile peace they had built? Cal Torin knew he was running out of time. The whispers of rebellion within the Valon Empire were growing louder, and General Vorthen's aggressive stance was gaining support among the military leaders. Torin had tried to warn Emperor Drexel, but the Emperor's response was hesitant. Drexel feared upsetting the balance of power, even as Vorthen pushed harder for war. One evening, Torin received a message from a trusted ally in the palace. "Be careful," the message read. "Vorthen plans to act soon, whether you approve or not." Torin's heart sank. He realized that staying silent was no longer an option. If Vorthen launched an attack without permission, it could destroy any chance of peace with humanity and plunge the Empire into chaos. Determined to stop him, Torin gathered evidence of Vorthen's unauthorized plans. He compiled reports, intercepted communications, and documented the general's reckless behavior. Armed with this information, he requested another private meeting with Drexel. But when he arrived at the palace, he was met not by the Emperor, but by Vorthen's guards. They seized him before he could speak, accusing him of treason. News of Torin's arrest spread quickly through the Empire. Many saw it as proof that Vorthen now held the real power, while others worried about what his actions might mean for the future. Among those concerned was Mara, a former scientist who had once served in the Imperial Research Division. She had grown disillusioned with the Empire's corruption and brutality, and she despised Vorthan's thirst for war. Nira decided to take a risk. Using her connections, she reached out to the human fleet. Her message was simple: if you want to avoid war, listen to me. At first, Admiral Logan Hayes was skeptical. How do we know this isn't a trap? He asked his officers. But Ambassador Emily Dawson urged caution. We can't ignore this, she said. If she's telling the truth, she might be our only hope. After verifying the authenticity of Nira's claims, Ryan Mitchell agreed to meet with her in secret. Under the cover of darkness, a small shuttle carrying Nira docked with the human flagship. When she stepped aboard, her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. I represent those in the Empire who oppose Vorthan, she explained. He plans to attack your fleet soon, using weapons hidden near the border. If you strike first, you can disable their defenses and force them to negotiate. The humans debated her proposal carefully. Commander Alex Rivera argued in favor of acting quickly. This could give us the upper hand, he said, but we need to move fast. Others, like Lieutenant Sarah Blake, were more cautious. What if this is a trick? What if they're luring us into a trap? In the end, Ryan made the decision. We'll use her information, but we'll stay ready for anything, he said. With Nira's help, the humans devised a bold plan. A team led by Alex would target the weapon caches, disabling them before Vorthan could use them. Meanwhile, the rest of the fleet would remain on high alert, prepared to defend itself if necessary. As the operation began, tension filled the air. Alex and his team moved silently through the darkness, avoiding detection as they approached the first cache. When they reached it, they planted explosives and retreated just in time. The explosion lit up the night sky, sending shockwaves through the area. One by one, the hidden weapons were destroyed, leaving Vorthan's forces vulnerable. Back on the flagship, Ryan watched the mission unfold from the command center. Good work, he said quietly as the last cache was neutralized. For the first time in days, there was a glimmer of hope. But Ryan knew the fight wasn't over yet. Vorthan wouldn't give up easily, and the Empire's response could still tip the scales toward war. Far away, in the depths of the Vaylon capital, Cal Torrin sat alone in his cell. Though imprisoned, he felt a flicker of optimism. The humans had shown courage and resourcefulness, and Nira's betrayal of the Empire proved that not everyone supported Vorthan's madness. Perhaps, Torrin thought, there was still a chance to restore balance for both the Empire and the galaxy. The destruction of the hidden weapon caches sent shockwaves through the Vaylon Empire. General Vorthan was furious. He had spent months preparing for a decisive strike against the humans, only to see his plans unravel before his eyes. When news of the attacks reached him, he slammed his fist on the table in rage. They dare to attack us in our own space, he roared. His officers flinched but said nothing. They knew better than to speak when Vorthan was this angry. Vorthan didn't waste time. Ignoring Emperor Drexel's orders to hold back, he gathered his forces and prepared for an all-out assault. If they want war, he growled, then we'll give them more. His fleet mobilized quickly, ships moving into position near the border. The human fleet detected the buildup almost immediately. Alarms blared across the command center of the flagship as Lieutenant Sarah Blake monitored the situation. They're coming, she said, her voice tense. Captain Ryan Mitchell nodded grimly. Sound the alert. Everyone to their stations. Admiral Logan Hayes called an emergency meeting with his senior officers. This is it, he said, his tone firm. We knew this might happen. We've trained for this. Stay focused, and remember why we're here. The crew worked tirelessly, preparing the fleet for battle. Though fear lingered in the air, there was also determination. Humanity had come too far to back down now. The battle began at the edge of the Empire's territory. Vorthen's ships surged forward, firing powerful energy beams that lit up the darkness of space. The human fleet responded with precision and coordination. Smaller, faster vessels darted around the larger Vylon ships, avoiding direct hits while targeting weak points. Explosions erupted across the battlefield, filling the void with bursts of light and debris. Despite their skill, the humans were outnumbered. Vorthen's forces pressed the attack relentlessly, pushing deeper into human lines. On board the flagship, Ryan made a critical decision. "Divert power to the shields," he ordered. "We can't afford to lose this ship." The crew scrambled to follow his commands, their movements quick and efficient. Meanwhile, Ambassador Emily Dawson watched the battle unfold from a nearby vessel. Her heart raced as she saw the chaos outside her window. She wanted to help, but there was little she could do. All she could do was hope that the humans' earlier efforts would pay off. And they did. Thanks to the disabling of the hidden weapon caches, Vorthen's forces were less equipped than they had planned to be. Their supply lines faltered, and communication between ships became disjointed. Sensing weakness, Ryan ordered a daring counterattack. Piloted by Lieutenant Marcus Cole, a small squadron of fighters targeted Vorthen's command ship, aiming to cripple its systems. The mission was dangerous, but Marcus didn't hesitate. With skill and bravery, he led his team through enemy fire, dodging blasts as they closed in on their target. When they finally reached the command ship, they unleashed a barrage of missiles, striking vital sections of the vessel. The impact shook the massive ship, sending it spiraling out of control. Inside, Vorthen fought to maintain order, but it was no use. His crew panicked as alarms screamed throughout the ship. In the end, Vorthen's forces began to retreat. Without their leader to guide them, the remaining ships pulled back, leaving the battlefield littered with wreckage. The human fleet didn't pursue. They had achieved their goal, stopping the attack and proving their strength. Back on the flagship, the crew cheered quietly, exhausted but relieved. Ryan allowed himself a brief moment of pride before turning his attention to the next challenge. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. Deep within the Vylon capital, Kel Torn heard about Vorthen's defeat. Though still imprisoned, he felt a surge of hope. If the humans could stand up to the Empire's greatest general, then perhaps change was possible after all. The defeat of General Vorthen sent shockwaves through the Vylon Empire. For years, he had been a symbol of strength and authority, feared by his enemies and respected by his allies. But now, his failure against the humans exposed cracks in the Empire's foundation. Emperor Drexel, who had once relied on Vorthen's leadership, found himself questioning everything. The Empire's military might was no longer untouchable, and the humans had proven they were not to be underestimated. Kel Torn, still imprisoned, saw an opportunity. He knew that Vorthen's arrogance had led to disaster, and he believed the Empire needed new leadership. Leadership focused on peace rather than war. Using secret channels, he reached out to loyalists within the palace. These were people who shared his vision of reform, individuals tired of the endless cycle of conflict and oppression. Together, they began planning a way to free Torren and bring his ideas to the Emperor. Meanwhile, Admiral Logan Hayes and Captain Ryan Mitchell met with their officers to discuss the next steps. Though the battle had been won, tensions remained high. "We showed them we can fight," Logan said, pacing the command center. "But fighting isn't the answer. We need to push for peace while we have the upper hand." Ryan agreed. "If we don't act now, they'll regroup and try again." Ambassador Emily Dawson also played a crucial role. She worked tirelessly to keep communication open with the Vylons, even as distrust lingered on both sides. Her meetings with Nira, the rebel scientist, provided valuable insight into the Empire's inner workings. Nira revealed that many Vylons were tired of living under fear and wanted change. "You've given us hope," Nira told Emily during one of their discussions. "But hope alone isn't enough. You need to show the Empire that humanity is here to help, not conquer." Back on Earth, President Daniel Carter addressed the world once more. He spoke about the recent victory, but emphasized the importance of diplomacy. "This is not a time for celebration," he said. "It's a time for reflection and action. We must work toward a future where cooperation replaces conflict." His words resonated with many, though some leaders still called for stronger measures against the Valons. Inside the Valon capital, Torin's supporters succeeded in freeing him from imprisonment. They smuggled him out of the palace under cover of darkness and brought him before Emperor Drexel. When Torin entered the throne room, Drexel looked at him with a mix of anger and curiosity. "You've caused me a great deal of trouble," the Emperor said coldly. Torin bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, I acted only to protect the Empire. Vorthan's recklessness nearly destroyed us." Drexel hesitated. He had always trusted Torin's judgment, but the past weeks had shaken his confidence. "What would you have me do?" he asked finally. Torin stepped forward, his voice steady. "Step aside temporarily, Your Majesty. Allow reforms to take place. Show the galaxy that the Empire is ready for change." It was a bold suggestion, one that could either save the Empire or tear it apart. After a long silence, Drexel nodded. "Very well," he said. "I will step down, but only if you promise to guide us through this transition." Torin accepted the responsibility, knowing the road ahead would be difficult. He immediately began working with Nira and other rebels to reshape the Empire's policies, focusing on peace and cooperation. The humans watched these developments closely. Emily continued her negotiations, now with Torin leading the Valon side. Progress was slow, but there was a newfound sense of possibility. Both sides realized that working together might be the only way to ensure survival in a galaxy filled with uncertainty. As days turned into weeks, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity and the Valon Empire stood on the brink of a new era. Whether it would lead to lasting peace or further conflict remained to be seen. But for the first time, there was hope, and sometimes hope was all anyone needed to keep moving forward. The galaxy watched as humanity and the Valon Empire took their first steps toward a fragile peace. Kel Torin, now leading the Empire's transition, worked tirelessly to rebuild trust. He met regularly with Ambassador Emily Dawson, their conversations growing more open and productive with each passing day. Together, they drafted a historic treaty, a document that promised cooperation, shared knowledge, and mutual respect. It was far from perfect, but it was a start. On board the human flagship, Captain Ryan Mitchell felt a mix of relief and unease. The battle against General Vorthan had been won, but scars remained. Many in the fleet were still grieving the losses they had suffered during the conflict. "We've come a long way," Ryan said to Lieutenant Sarah Blake one evening as they stood on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "But I wonder if we're ready for what comes next." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "Change is hard," she replied, "for both sides. But at least we're talking instead of fighting." Her words carried a quiet optimism, though her eyes betrayed lingering doubts. They both knew that peace was fragile, especially when old wounds ran deep. Back on Earth, President Daniel Carter faced challenges of his own. While many celebrated the treaty, others remained skeptical. Protesters gathered outside government buildings, holding signs that read, "Trust no alien and protect our borders." Senator Laura Bennett led the opposition, arguing that humanity was being too trusting. "These creatures could turn on us at any moment," she warned during a heated session of Congress. "Why should we believe their promises?" Despite the criticism, Carter stayed committed to the treaty. "Fear will only lead to more war," he told his advisors. "If we want a better future, we have to take risks." His determination inspired some, but it also deepened divisions within the United Nations. The road ahead would not be easy. Meanwhile, inside the Valon Empire, resistance to reform simmered beneath the surface. Not everyone agreed with Torin's vision of peace. Some military leaders resented the loss of power, while others feared that working with humans would weaken the Empire. Secret meetings took place in shadowy corners of the capital, where whispers of rebellion grew louder. Even as Torin pushed forward with negotiations, he knew that enemies within the Empire could undo everything he had worked for. Emily Dawson became a symbol of hope for both humans and Valons. She spent weeks traveling between Earth and the Valon homeworld, building bridges and sharing stories. When she spoke, people listened, not just because of her position, but because of her sincerity. She reminded everyone of their shared goals: survival, progress, and understanding. The signing of the treaty marked a turning point. Held aboard a neutral space station, the ceremony brought together representatives from both sides. As Emily and Torin signed the document, applause echoed through the chamber. For a brief moment, the galaxy seemed united. But behind the smiles and handshakes, tensions lingered. General Vorthin, though defeated, refused to disappear quietly. Imprisoned after his failed attack, he plotted his revenge. Using secret allies, he sent messages to loyalists within the military, urging them to rise up against the treaty. "The humans are weak," he wrote. "They'll betray us the moment they get what they want. Act now, before it's too late." His words found eager ears among those who opposed Torin's reforms. Plans for sabotage began to take shape, threatening to derail a fragile peace. As the days passed, Ryan and his crew prepared to leave Valon space. Their mission had been successful, but their work was far from over. "We've planted the seeds of peace," Ryan told his officers during a final briefing. "Now it's up to all of us to make sure they grow." His voice carried a mix of pride and caution, reflecting the mood of everyone on board. The galaxy held its breath once more. Humanity and the Valon Empire had taken a bold step toward coexistence, but the journey ahead would test their resolve. Challenges loomed on the horizon, but for now, there was hope, and sometimes hope was enough to light the way forward. The departure of the human fleet marked the beginning of a new chapter for both humanity and the Valon Empire. As the sleek ships moved away from Valon space, Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge, watching the stars stretch out before him. He felt a strange mix of pride and uncertainty. The treaty had been signed, but he knew that peace was not something that could be guaranteed. It had to be nurtured every day. Ambassador Emily Dawson stayed behind, becoming the first human representative to live on the Valon homeworld. Her role was challenging but vital. She worked closely with Cal Torin to ensure the terms of the treaty were upheld. Together, they faced resistance from those who doubted the alliance. Some Valons refused to cooperate, while others spread rumors about hidden human agendas. Despite these challenges, Emily remained steadfast. "We're building something bigger than ourselves," she often said during meetings. Her determination inspired many, even among the skeptics. Back on Earth, President Daniel Carter delivered a speech to celebrate the signing of the treaty. Standing before a crowd of diplomats, scientists, and citizens, he spoke about the importance of unity. "Today is not just a victory for humanity," he said. "It's a victory for all living beings who believe in the power of cooperation. We've shown that fear does not have to divide us, that we can choose understanding over conflict." His words brought tears to some eyes and applause from others. For the first time in weeks, the world seemed to breathe a little easier. But not everyone shared this optimism. Senator Laura Bennett continued to voice her concerns, warning that trusting the Valons was a mistake. "Peace treaties are only as strong as the weakest link," she argued in Congress. "What happens when they break their promises?" Her questions resonated with some, but most people chose to focus on the progress that had been made. Inside the Valon Empire, Cal Torin faced his own battles. Though Emperor Drexel supported the reforms, there were still powerful factions working against them. General Vorthin, though imprisoned, managed to inspire rebellion among his loyalists. Small acts of sabotage began to occur. Supply lines disrupted, communication systems hacked, and protests erupting in key cities. Torin responded quickly, using Nira and her rebel network to uncover plots before they caused too much damage. It was a constant struggle, but Torin refused to give up. "Change takes time," he told Emily one evening, "and it's never easy." Despite these challenges, signs of progress emerge. Joint research projects between humans and Valons led to breakthroughs in technology and medicine. Trade routes opened, bringing prosperity to both sides. Stories of friendship began to spread. Children learning about each other's cultures, scientists sharing ideas, and families exchanging gifts across the stars. Slowly but surely, trust started to grow. Admiral Logan Hayes kept the human fleet ready, knowing that peace required strength as well as diplomacy. "We're guardians now," he told his crew. "Our job is to protect what we've built." His words reminded everyone that vigilance was essential, even in times of calm. As months turned into years, the galaxy changed in ways no one could have predicted. Humanity and the Valon Empire became partners, working together to explore the unknown and solve problems that once seemed impossible. The scars of war faded, replaced by hope for a brighter future. Ryan Mitchell eventually retired, spending his days writing about his experiences and mentoring young officers. Emily Dawson became a legend, remembered as the woman who helped bridge two worlds. And Cal Torin. He went down in history as the leader who dared to dream of peace in a galaxy torn apart by conflict. The journey was far from perfect, and challenges would always remain. But for the first time, humanity and the Valon Empire stood side by side, proving that cooperation could triumph over fear. In a universe full of darkness, they had found a way to shine. And sometimes, that was enough.